Hello and welcome to Breath and Voice Chronicles with me, Sophia Maya, and my good friend Igor Siberia. We are so excited to be here again. We are really embracing a free-flowing format here. So we really don't discuss too much what we're going to talk about up front. We really want it to be an organic environment for free thought and consciousness and whatever might come up. So we have no idea what to expect either, which is really kind of fun for us. So without further ado, let me again introduce my friend Igor Siberia. Hello, Igor. Nice to see you today.
Hi, good to see you as well, and I welcome everybody who's watching us today. Good to be here.
Excellent. Well, so let's see where we're going to go. I think there's something that's actually coming through with me that if you're open to it, we were talking a little bit about the differences in our um, in how we express ourselves and how being grounded and also allowing ourselves to express ourselves can be really challenging in the real world. I mean, I have had relationships fall away because of because I express myself in a certain way these days. So if you listen to my podcast, you'll understand what I'm talking about. My whole language has changed. I've become a an open channel for my higher self, which is a version of me that is in another dimension that is not restricted by the earthly realm and the body and the emotions and the ego. And that's who I am connected to through my intuition and why I am on this incredible journey of expression, self-expression for the voice, which is really the main tool that I'm using at this time in my life to express myself. Other creatives use art, they use writing, which I'm also a writer. That's another way I do this. But however you express yourself, it's an authentic expression of your soul through your body and through the human form. And as I'm going through this uh, experience where I'm learning to express myself more openly, I am finding a lot of situations that I'm in can be very uncomfortable for me or other people. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that today to see maybe what your experience was or is even with that, Igor, and maybe talk through how that really informs what we do and where we are and how we express ourselves.
Yeah, I feel the more you connect to your true self, to your authenticity, to that greatest version of yourself, when you are feel like the most happy and joy, but also there's a main pillars of that connection is being in integrity and being authentic. And so what I recognize it was back in the days for myself that, and then I started seeing that in other people that a lot of us not being authentic to each other, and most importantly, not being authentic to ourselves. So it's kind of like it quite often even happens unconsciously. We're not fully even like understanding that we like lying or we're not saying the truth.
Right.
We kind of like it's sort of like pink glasses that feels like it feels good here.
Right. Well,
But but
we're actually lying by omission, aren't we? We're not telling something that we know, and that's lying by omission, which most people are comfortable with. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Yes,
Yeah.
and if totally, and once we start connecting to those pieces and we becoming authentic first, it starts within, right? So we
Right.
start being more authentic with ourselves and take things as they are and not our imagination might create more beautiful. No, if you have not done this, you have not done this. It's not bad, it's not good, it's a whole different topic that we create meanings out of it. But the fact, what is the fact, and we first have to authentically accept that as what it is. As a quick example here, when I was traveling in Puerto Rico, a lady was backing up and she touched with her bumper my bumper very gently, very because she was going so slow. And there was no damage, but of course I went outside to double check, and then she come out, and she couldn't accept the fact that that happened. She's like,
Oh,
no, I did
oh,
not do it. It's like I'm in the car. I'm just been watching the whole scene, and I told her, that's okay because there's no damage, but like at least, you could authentically accept that that just happened. I understand why she's not gonna do
yeah.
that because she doesn't like it. But anyway, so once once that whole kind of like happened, we becoming more truthful, and when we're becoming more truthful to environment. And so we start speaking up and we start saying things, and quite often it's uncomfortable because it's not necessary you have to call somebody out for something, it's about speaking with kindness, with a smile, but also be able to deliver something that you notice, that maybe it's about how you feel, or maybe you find somebody being out of integrity, and just maybe kind of like give a nudge or like a direction for them to look at, just to in the form of like, please consider to look at this part. So at least I would put some seeds in their consciousness to look at it, and because I guess there would be many more points and moments when they've been be shown and reflected to what is happening in their life. But yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, it is because, and you made me think of something when you said seeds, because this is how this all started. And I think this is important to share that going through this transformative phase that I've been in for the last 3.5 years has been a progression. It's been a process. It's not, I woke up one day and suddenly I was a different person. It took a while for me to really tune into what was happening. And I think it's as I was going through that, and my language started to change, the way I saw my world started to change. So I started to expand into the universal space through this transition. And when I say transition, I mean awakening. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So I mean, we can call it transition, we can call it metamorphosis. It's all the same thing. We're awakening. And I had an interesting experience just before we started recording today that really prompted this whole thought about this subject matter. Is you start to feel uncomfortable in your old self, or not your old self, in who you are, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
understand why. And this can be physical discomfort. I actually recorded an episode called Ascension Chaos because I went through such a radical physical expression of the energy changing in my body. It was terrifying. I mean, I honestly got to a point where I almost went to the hospital. I was having such pressure in my body. I didn't know what to do. And I was able to reach out. All I did was say out loud, am I in trouble? Or is this just ascension symptoms? And I was laughing because I was so scared. Standing by myself in my living room, this is the day my granddaughter was born. And I went to the hospital to see my new grandbaby with my daughter. I was the first one, well, the second one. Somebody snuck in before me, but I was the second one to see them, this brand new little baby. And when I was in the hospital room watching the nurse tend to my daughter and my granddaughter, I started to feel really strange. And I was sitting on a little stool just watching what was going on. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on in my body? I asked my son-in-law for a glass of water because I felt like I can't even describe how I felt. This is what I mean. Like it's indescribable. But before he could get the glass of water to me, I passed out on the floor. And when I woke up a couple minutes later, the nurses were holding me. They had me laying on the floor with my feet in the air. I'm like, how did I get in this position? What's going on? But this was, and I believe this wholeheartedly, if this has been validated for me, that when my granddaughter was born, it was such a powerful energetic entrance into the world, into my energetic space. And this is everything that's affected by this awakening, this change. is it brought in such a rush of energy, I actually passed out. And when I got home, when I got myself home, is when I had this other episode where I'm standing in my living room and I had this pressure in my upper body, in my rib cage, in my heart and torso that I couldn't release. And I said out loud, "What's happening? Am I in trouble? Do I need to call an ambulance?" I didn't know. And I have a relationship with my first ex-husband, and he had just called me in the middle of it, and I said, "Can you just kind of stay on standby in case I need a ride to the hospital?" I didn't know what was happening, and I received a message pretty clearly through uh, a Google search of all things that no, you're fine. What you're experiencing are ascension symptoms. So there's such a physical element to this, and I went through such a radical change that it's still astonishing to me that I can get up in the morning and function with all the changes that have happened on a biologically to my body. It's so much more than just your mind and your heart. And so my expression, when I express myself to others, a lot of times I feel like an alien in a foreign world, and it really has affected a lot of my relationships. Some I've had to completely leave behind, some close relationships, uh, and it's just interesting to live through it and then get the opportunity to talk about it in a way that other people can understand, that's accessible, even though in my mind and body and heart, it felt like I was plucked off of planet Earth and stuck in a compression chamber on another planet for 3.5 years. And now I'm being spit back out into Earth, and it's now go find your way. It's just such an interesting experience. Did you experience anything like that at all? Or was this more, I know the younger generation, my daughter included, didn't have any of that radicalness. It was more subtle and beautiful, her awakening.
Yeah, I wanted the awakening. That's kind of like actually the thought that I've been holding to have this opportunity to actually deepen on that conversation. It's like, what is awakening? When
Yeah,
is that happening? Why is it happening?
right.
And so the people in the audience can maybe even relate because some already went through this process and some of them are going through it right now. It's a big humanitarian awakening
Right.
happening for the last multiple years, but like specifically lately, it's been like a lot bigger, a lot more. And so, and it is usually happening during the time when everything looks like crazy, nuts, when the world feels like, oh, it feels like the end of the world. And
Yeah,
you can look at it globally, and that's kind of what's happening. But also, it usually happens for each person individually, including myself, when it's the end of the world in
yeah,
your life.
right,
When everything, because it happens, your normal life start being shaken up, and everything that you thought of it being breaking down.
right,
uh, Quite often it happens, not necessary, but it's so many ways how it's being initiated with a separation from relationship,
right.
losing a job, and or having those two at the same time. That's what I experienced.
Yeah,
And so that whole process being initiated with my separation many years ago. And on top of that, I lost job due to uh, the paperwork have not arrived on time, and so
mm,
it's like not I didn't do anything wrong, but the fact that they had to let me go, it was very sad. And being in that process of just going through a difficult time already, just like emotionally, of course, it's like
right.
it's a transition.
Hmm.
While we mutually while we mutually decided to this is a time for us to go separate ways, and we have a very conscious separation that I'm very grateful for. It's still a transition, and it's
Right,
still you like learning how to navigate this whole new life
right,
of you like now being single, and then na- navigate that without having a job, and that was only the beginning because all other pieces been happening also simultaneously at the same time,
yeah.
and it really put me in a very dark place
Mm,
because so many negative. things or problems or difficulties or challenges, it's been all like a dark cloud,
Wow.
above you wherever you walk. And yeah, and that's kind of it. It's just usually, uh, not usually, but I guess for each person is individually.
Hmm.
At least that's how it happened. For me, it was very like vivid with the thunderstorm. If I would describe that as a weather, metaphorically, it's
Yeah.
all like, oh my God, it's like weather changes. Like blue sky, sunny weather, and then clouds, and then rain, and then thunderstorm. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But definitely, the moment when all of that happening, it's sort of like everything is telling you to pause. It's the time to actually, when quite often we maybe mistakenly trying to run away or distract
Right.
ourselves or do something like, or yeah, just many directions our mind might take us. But it is actually a time for us to go inwards, because there's like whole world outside is kind of like giving a sign and messages, trying to talk to you with all this events that's happening. And like you were sharing about your moment of metamorphosis, right? When you went through it, and the same, it took me actually some time because it was all fresh and new for me.
Right.
I didn't realize right away, and I haven't come across any podcasts that were talking about it. And I feel
Right.
like that's one of the reasons I actually wanted to touch on that topic for anybody who is listening. Maybe they have not experienced that yet, but they already feeling there's something inside uh, tells us that there's something is not right in their life,
Right.
because I feel like that's how it starts. We quite often ignore the feelings of like, yeah, I have this job. It feels like, it allows me to have security that I always wished for, but like inside, it's not fulfilling me, right? I'm like
Right.
not fully happy, or like I'm feeling that I'm not so passionate. And that's kind of like what I'm talking, even from my personal experience, is how I was feeling like after some years of working in that job. I start feeling that I'm not like driven or very passionate 100%,
Right.
some level, but not at, so it's not like something that I would wake up excited and motivated and like, so it all comes with that body language.
Hmm.
Some people call this gut feeling, intuition, but it's also on a very physical level. You just feel discomfort
Right.
with, in our body, so intelligent that
Right.
it's communicating with us constantly and all the time. And so there's a tendency to ignore those feelings,
Right.
especially at the beginning, because it's like, no, logically it feels that's where I need to be. But the whole body is constricting and tells you something. And if we only allow that moment to take that deep breath,
Yep.
feel the shift, feel the openness, feel expansions, and then we can get some thoughts that be telling us, it's like, oh, yeah. And that's where authenticity comes to. When we get the message, or like thought, idea, um, being authentic. It's like, even if logically it feels really good, but if you start speaking truthfully, authentically,
Right.
you should be able to say, okay, well, the truth is that I'm in this life situation because it's very comfortable, and don't want to leave that comfort. And this is the truth, right, for somebody. And I'm
Right.
just like speaking generally here, not
Hmm.
about myself. And but I feel like that's a beginning, at least a very moment to recognize and see the present moment. And the rest be unfolding, not necessarily that you have to do radical actions right away. First, it's just at least to recognize where you at, what is happening.
Absolutely. And the key part of all of this is that, and this is something I had to discover for myself. I've always been a very empathetic person. I've always been very compassionate, and usually to a fault. I would sacrifice my own comfort or my own happiness or joy to make other people comfortable. And I always viewed that as a good thing until I started to realize how much I was damaging myself. And I always use the example of being on an airplane and the cabin pressure drops and the oxygen masks drop, and you put the mask on your neighbor and you pass out yourself helping your neighbor. So the difference is, now that I've learned, I have to put that mask on myself first and then put the mask on my neighbor. And that's really as simple as I can make that, the understanding of what a double-edged sword being an empathetic, compassionate really can be. And this is something I had to learn to navigate along with trusting my intuitive channel, which is where all of this information comes from. The body responds to frequency or energy. It is whatever it's fed is what it responds to. That's why our thoughts, our feelings all affect the body. And when we're out of alignment with our highest energy or our highest potential, I should say, we start to feel it in our bodies. It becomes discomfort. And then if we ignore the discomfort, or I say when I ignored the discomfort, it became illness. I started to not feel well, and I didn't have I couldn't get myself through my normal day anymore. It just wasn't working. It was almost like my environment became hostile to my body. And it was what it ends up being, which I've learned recently, and I'm still learning every day, is that because I was no longer in alignment energetically with my environment, it was literally kicking me out. It was pushing me out into a different energetic alignment. So what that meant for me was I, of course, left my marriage, which I was with my ex-husband for nearly 25 years. A year later, we were in business together for 12 years. We had a wonderful business. But a year later, I felt compelled to leave my business. I walked away at 58 years old, having no idea what I would do. But understanding at a core level through this intuitive channel, this inner wisdom, which is always with us. And this is the part that I didn't understand. It's everything I needed was in my own body. I just had to tune into it. And I knew that I would always have what I needed. And with that trust, I just walked away and I walked into a world of absolute unknown, brand new territory. I had no idea what I was going to do, who I was going to become. And this was a little over just 2.5 years ago that I walked away from my business. So it's been a progression for me. But yes, in order to continue to tune into my body and to really hear what my body was telling me through my feelings and physically how I felt, it wasn't just, and this is interesting to me, it wasn't just emotional. Like everybody equates feelings with emotions. Like I was sad or happy or angry or depressed. I mean, those are feelings, they're also conditions, but I'm talking about the way my body felt, pressure in my body, pain, discomfort. It was on every single level. So I was unable to escape this, no matter how I tried. And we do escape these feelings with our soothing mechanisms. Either we eat or we drink, or we have toxic relationships, or we do something else self-destructive to addictions, right? To deflect or to ignore that voice. It's almost like we assume that voice is a demon and it doesn't have our best interest because it wants us to be so diametrically different than who we are. It's our angel voice telling us, you are going down a path that is self-destructive. I'm trying to pull you off of it. We don't trust the voice. We go deeper down the path, and then we have to go into this, whole other lower vibrating version of our lives or a period of our lives. And then we hit rock bottom. That's what everybody knows about rock bottom, right? And at that point, we either have to stand up and realize that we can only go up from here, and then maybe drop all of our own ideas and really embrace what's happening inside of us. But my point is, everything I needed was in my body. I stopped looking outward for it. I stopped looking for someone else to take away the pain, for someone else to make me feel better and to make me understand what was going on. And this happened to me right at the beginning of COVID-19, right at the beginning. And the whole universe was pushing me into this seclusion because my business started to fail. All the work that I did, I had an auction business. I would post auctions and we'd sell, and it was just this wonderful business. Sales stopped. Literally everything just stopped. The money stopped coming in, and I knew in my heart, even though I didn't get it mentally at that point, the universe was pushing me out, saying, "You're done here. If you want to keep growing, you have to leave this environment." I mean, that's how tangible and physical this was for
Yeah.
me.
And I also want to say that something that highlight of something what you said, that quite often it is being manifested in illness and physical like disease, and
Right.
because it emotions that we feel in the body sensations, or like the body discomfort that we feel if we ignore it, emotions are being not processed there, so they still staying there, and they it's a bioenergetic element that's a very tangible, that finding a representation in the body, and it's kind of like get anchored there, and it start developing physical discomfort first, until it becomes an actual pain, and quite often also becomes a chronical pain. And we're trying to go to doctor and they prescribe, well, there's so many ways how they trying to help you on a physical level. However,
But that's
something
why,
to look at.
just to interrupt you, but that's why medication is a multi-billion-dollar industry, because we
Yeah.
try to medicate those feelings instead of dealing with them. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
No, but because we need to look wider and see that, recognize that because all the physical pain directly connected to unprocessed emotions,
right,
and it's not gonna go away. You might get a temporary relief,
right,
but then it's gonna come back, and it's
right,
gonna keep coming back until you heal that or process to those emotions
right,
wherever you've been going through in your life: grief, sadness, anger, frustration, and all the challenges, difficulties, and just like emotionally that had to be processed in order for that physical pain to go away.
right.
And I'll just give my example. As for years I have a chronic pain on my wrist, and I thought, logically, that's how we think, right?
Uh,
I'm working on a computer, and back in
mhm,
when I had a corporate job, and I thought it's because how I hold my wrist, like how
right.
my arm being like, and I got, the job I got everything I needed. Like it was a separate keyboard. Can't even believe that exists in the world. That you can, it's more organic, more, yeah,
Mhm,
and the same with the mouse and everything. But guess what? It would not fix the problem.
right,
The, went to see the doctor, so they gave me the supporter, and so I start wearing this support thing, on my wrist. And again, really, nothing was changing. It was still being there. And I remember the moment when I have a powerful breath session, and when I was processing those emotions and all that pain, all the vibrations that I started feeling in my body, all of a sudden that they all focused on this one area. It's kind of like
mhm.
all the tingling that you've been feeling through your body went right in my wrist.
Wow.
And so the pain amplified. And I thought I'm gonna lose my arm because
Oh
it
my
was so
gosh.
painful.
Wow.
But something miraculous happened afterwards. Because after I came back to life, and like after the session, maybe I felt pain for another week. It was kind of like, something got, like, it was kind of like a surgery, but like energetic surgery.
Oh yeah.
And and then just like after regular surgery, they put cast on it,
Right.
and tells you that it's going to be maybe another week or two for that to heal. And so when the week passed by, that chronic pain that I had for 3 years went away,
Wow.
that I couldn't believe. And it was something to celebrate, because that was a quest that I've been for
Wow.
multiple years,
Right.
and trying all the variety of things, how to bring therapy in a kind of like normal way, logically
Right.
trying to understand.
Right.
And the moment then I finally went to the session and process emotions and heal that physical pain, it was so extraordinary. And this is one of my favorite stories that I love to share, because
Wow.
at the work that I do, I ask people about physical pain,
Right.
and its results are phenomenal. Like 80% of people confirming how their pain went down, at
Right.
least. Some of the pain went away, some of the pain being reduced.
That's amazing. And I know we're probably going to close here in a moment, but I wanted to just say I did an episode, my last episode on my solo podcast, and I mentioned how, oh, I actually described my experience at your breath workshop as a surgery because it felt like I said there's a lot of emotions in the body, and we have a mechanism in our body that's designed to expel emotions. I wrote an article called The Emotional Baggage Handler. And I did an episode also about this mechanism that I discovered in my body as I was going through my awakening and I was healing from the trauma of my past. I realized that what was happening every time I would sit down and deal with a feeling instead of push it back down, this thing would happen, this pattern of this mechanism is the best way to put it in my body that expelled the emotion out of my body and allowed me to be free of that trauma. It's miraculous. It really is. But I described my experience at your workshop as my using the emotional baggage handler got me to a certain point, but there was such a deep blockage in my body that I had to have it surgically removed. So I went to a specialist, which is you. And that's how I described it in my last episode. It's so interesting that you put it that way because that's exactly how I described this. Sometimes you need beyond what your body or your mind allows you to conceive of as a possible cure. Your body's so intelligent. Like you said, it's so incredibly intelligent and connected to the frequency around you. It responds to that. It's like your mind can say whatever it wants. You can think whatever you want, but your body knows. And if you choose to ignore your body's just going to push back and push back and push back until you're either immobilized or you wake up and you say, "Oh, I hear you. Let me go and let me sit in awareness and take care of you. Let me intentionally focus on your health, dear body, and free myself of this." So it's just so interesting that you put it that way because that's exactly how I put that. So
I remember that.
yeah. So I think I want to close pretty soon here. Is there anything else you
Hmm.
want to add about that, or are we good?
No, I think we're
Okay.
good. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Hmm.
So let's end our session the way we have the last couple with some breaths. Do you mind?
Yes, please.
Okay, good.
I invite everybody to fully relax, exhale all the way, and really encourage everybody to try this with us, not just listening, but like take this deep breath to your belly all together. Exhale all the way. All the way until you don't have any more oxygen. And then take a deep inhale once again to your belly, fully expanding your belly. And then take one more sip. And now exhale once again, all the way to the bottom. Feel how the air exiting your body until there is no more oxygen. And then third, last, deep inhale, the deepest inhale of the day. One more sip. Hold your breath. In Come back to natural breathing. Exhale, relax. Feel the energetic shift that happens within these 3 breaths. And this is also just a gift. And so incorporate that in your day. Take 3 breaths every hour,
Okay.
3 times a day. Whenever you remember, it will make a big difference in your day. It would just bring you more openness, more kind of like problem solving abilities. Yeah,
Clarity. Clarity.
clarity.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much, my friend, my friend, the Breath Guardian. I'm so honored to
Thank
do
you.
this with you. This is such an honor, and I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate everyone who's here with us. Without you, again, we would just be talking to each other, which is lovely. But we were happy to share this, and so grateful that you're here with us. And I hope that you join us again. Until next time.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you, Sophia, for holding the space for and sharing this space together.
I love it. Thank you so much, my friend, and we will talk again soon. Bye bye.